That's right. Welcome in another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we break down District 1 and 2 athletics week in, week out in the great state of Idaho, from Bonners Ferry all the way down to St. Mary's and over to the Palouse as well. We've got you covered with North Idaho action. We are coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. If you're live with us today, hey, thanks for stopping by. If you hit that like button, it'd be a really cool thing to do. That helps other people find the show a little more easily amongst all the social media scrolling. If you aren't here live, you can always watch this on replay, of course, at YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. And also, you can listen to this podcast on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. There's a little tab that says Prepcasts. You click that. There's a drop-down menu, North Idaho Prepcast. You can click on that and listen to it there. You can also listen to this podcast wherever you download and subscribe to podcasts: Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring in our North Idaho expert. It's Ryan Scaggs. What's up, Scaggs?
What's going on? You forgot the Camas Prairie. We're going to get some hate mail from Prairie and Grangeville.
Oh, yeah, to the Palouse and then down to the Camas Prairie, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, Palouse and beyond. Like, Coach Barger is going to start yelling at us. We don't want to upset her. And the number one Grangeville Bulldogs girls basketball team.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I didn't want to start the show there, but let's do it. Let's do it.
Sorry, I had to go there. I just figured I'd have to rip you a little bit, but it's all
no. Have you seen what's happening at the 2A level with the Max Preps rankings and stuff, Scaggs?
It's bonkers and bananas, and I just look at the coaches' rankings. I think that gives us the more honest answer right now, but that's just me.
We discussed this ad nauseum on the Treasure Valley Prepcast this week, which is our District 3, Boise area Prepcast, and essentially in 2A girls basketball this year, there's a pretty clear consensus top 3 teams, just using, my eyes and results, right? Yeah. It's great. It's Grangeville, it's Melba, it's Cole Valley Christian, right? And Grangeville for the moment gets that number 1 distinction because they beat both of those teams early on in the season at their place. Now, since then, Melba and Cole Valley have split. They're, of course, in the same district. They'll play again in the district tournament. But the Max Preps rankings, if all the teams we expect win out and advance to state do so, you're looking at Grangeville as the number 1 seed overall, which is great. No arguments there. But then Cole Valley as the 4 and Melba as the 5. You're talking about a potential championship battle in the first round, and the top 3 teams, by consensus, media poll, coaches poll, doesn't matter. The top 3 teams all on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah, and I think we've seen this before, and especially I think it was 5A a few years ago. But yeah, no, I'm with. We gotta have the seating committee. That we need an immediate injunction or something like that. We gotta have something. Seriously, this is crazy. Get a representative from the IHSAA. Get somebody from the Sports Writers Association. Get somebody from the Coaches Association. Just get 4 or 5 heads together. They'll figure it out. This isn't really a difficult problem, and we can go ad nauseum, like you said about you did with the Treasure Valley Prepcast, but this shouldn't be that hard. I don't understand it in the rankings. We know that the rankings are flawed anyways, because Scott did a phenomenal job explaining a lot of that in the off season between football and basketball. And this system, there is, I mean, it's like a spaghetti strainer. There's so many holes in this system. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's not the ideal way you want to do things. Of course, Coach Barger says, bring it on. We got to beat the best to be the best anyways. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, second year in a row, last year at the 5A tournament for the girls, Coeur d'Alene Boise played in the semis. That's probably the championship, right? No disrespect to Rocky Mountain, but they just didn't have it against Coeur d'Alene. So anyways, I don't know how we fix it. It's a mix of computers and humans, I think
there has to be a human element just to get the eyeballs on it, because the computers can't figure it out on their own.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I didn't want to start there today, but I thought we got through that pretty succinctly. So
we're good.
This is the North Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho. Be smart, don't start. No vape. I love what they're doing here, Scaggs. They are taking the battle to the streets, as it were, because come on, teenagers, kids, they're on social media, right? That's
Nobody's more in the loop than two dudes in their late 30s, you know.
here's what I may not know what social media they're using, but I know they're on media. It's a large umbrella, right?
That's right.
And what are these vaping companies doing? They are pumping millions upon millions of dollars in targeted marketing and ad campaigns to these teenagers.
Yep.
And we're probably going to get kicked off Facebook for saying this. I sound like a conservative radio host now. And Facebook's going to silence us, but they take the money. They just take the money and go, yeah, we don't care what you're doing, or we don't care if you're a vape company and you're trying to attract teenagers to buy your product. You paid us money. Go ahead and advertise. They claim that they, have filters in place, but I don't think so. So I like what No Vape is doing. Hey, let's get our message out on social media also.
Yeah, and the thing about if you want to, convey a positive message is that you have to be louder than the noise out there. And, this goes from parents and parenting with like what values you want to instill in your family, but also with, health stuff. Like you have to be louder than the outside noise that, maybe trying to tell a different story than what you truly believe in. I mean, the vaping is bad, and we've all kind of known that and assumed that, and it's not a good replacement for smoking. Just don't do any of that. And, I appreciate them trying to be louder than the advertisers saying like, oh yeah, vaping's a safe alternative to smoking. There is no safe alternative to smoking. Just don't do any of it.
Yeah. Get out of here with that nonsense. There's no safe alternative. That's for sure. All right. What are we going to do on the show today? We're going to take you through the brackets. This is the time of year where I make my transformation. I become Brackets Baney. We'll go through all.
Yeah. Oh, we can't do that. We might get a banned.
You're gonna get us flagged for copyright problems, Scaggs. You can't do that.
My bad.
CBS Sports is gonna send us a cease and desist. Anyways. It is time to break out the girls' district tournament brackets. Spoiler alert, not much action happening in the North yet. North Idaho is always kind of the last to get districts going, which I kind of like anyways, because if you think about it, Scaggs, girls state is still, 2.5 weeks out. And if I'm a team, I want to be playing high intensity district games as close to state as I can.
I believe the first district games are this weekend in the White Pines. So, I mean, they're the first to get underway. It's just because of the largest conference, but yeah.
Yeah, we did have the White Pine get started on Tuesday with the opening round, but then like the first set of eliminations and semis are this Saturday. You are correct. Yep. So, I mean, we'll go through the brackets. Not going to be a ton to dissect because a lot of the leagues still have regular season stuff to take care of, but it'll give us an idea of what to keep an eye out for when districts do start at the start of next week. And then when we come back, we'll be able to break down some tangible results. But before we do that, let's talk wrestling and boys hoops. Let's start on the wrestling side. I want to start with the dual invite that Clearwater Valley hosted last week up in Kuski. It was a who's who of 2A and 1A programs. St. Mary's and Kellogg both went undefeated. I would argue Kellogg had the more difficult slate of opponents, but on criteria, St. Mary's got the team title. So congratulations, Lumberjacks.
Yeah, and that's we talk about 2A. It's the 1A and 2A. It's all 2A. Like they're all in the same classification still, and there's that's a meat grinder if you ask me. I think that's going to be pretty telling on you go to state. We talked about it a little bit last week, and I know you guys talked about it ad nauseum on the Matt chat, but they're just going to beat up on each other. There's so much talent at 2A with the small school wrestlers up here in North Idaho, and St. Mary's is loaded for bear. I mean, they've got some dudes. I mean, between Gibson and the Nantel and the other guys that they've got in those lineups, they've got some hammers of their own. And Kellogg's absolutely loaded and deep. And then you get sprinkle in some guys from Potlatch and some guys from Clearwater Valley, and some kids from Priest River's got some dudes too. So there is a lot of solid. I think if the North was like its own, like kind of, they had like a district on district kind of tournament, which would be phenomenal to see. The North would bring home, I mean, a lot of titles. There's that at each weight you kind of sprinkle through. There's a stud from the North in one district, 1 or 2, and almost every single weight class you could see somebody standing on the top 2 spots in the podium.
Yeah, it's going to be, and unfortunately, because there's so much balance in the CIL this year, no one single team is going to have enough horses to go down and challenge like a Malad or a New Plymouth or something.
Yeah,
like
look
that.
at Malad is going to be the dangerous team to watch there at 2A this year at state, just because of sheer numbers.
Yep, for sure. So anyways, it'll be fun to follow their progress throughout. And then the bigger schools were at the North Idaho Rumble, Scaggs, where I gotta be honest, I was a little surprised. Coeur d'Alene on their home turf takes third behind a 4A team Caldwell, which took second, and a 3A team American Falls came up and won the whole thing.
You know, I hung out through the blood rounds with my son on Saturday at the North Idaho Rumble. I sent you some pictures, and you know, watching what was there, I mean, Coeur d'Alene showed up. They had some young dudes that wrestled really well, made it to the finals, and they had a couple winners, which was awesome to see. You know, and I was kind of scanning through the final results. Like Rocco White winning at 98 pounds was impressive, and you know, but Caldwell's always historically been a really strong program. And you look at, you know, classification wise, they're going to be 5A next year. So, like, I mean, as far as numbers go, like, that's not a small school by any stretch of the imagination. They just get the ability to kind of be in that ballpark. But you know, American Falls was the surprise to me. They wrestled tough. They came out and they were gritty. They were in every match they were in, even the ones that they lost. They were competitive, and that's a really solid team. But I think that spoke to the overall depth of the tournament this year up here. Was, you know, Coeur d'Alene taking third. Post Falls is beat up. They didn't have their full lineup in the tournament, and they're just trying to get healthy for districts and get their way to state. But you know, Hoyt Haas winning at 132 for Lewiston. You know, getting another title there at the North Idaho Rumble was cool to see in his kind of swan song senior affair. And you know, it's a really nice tune-up match as you head into districts. And the quality wrestling really showed, especially on the girls' side. There was some phenomenal girls' matches that took place at Coeur d'Alene as well, and that's just speaking, I think, you know, volumes of the quality of what that tournament's become. Some teams from Montana coming over now, and it's truly been a nice little regional tournament. So like I said, that last warm-up before districts, and you know, I was impressed though that, you know, Lake City Garrett Leonard at 195 was very impressive, and that's no shot at Jordan Tyler from Sandpoint, who is a fan of our Prepcast and of Matt Chat, but Leonard looked really solid at 195. There's some guys that looked really good individually in their efforts.
Yeah, I mean, and you talked about Hoyt Haas from Lewiston this week. Al Fontes, he's got a couple of different series. He's got the Hidden Gems of Idaho Wrestling, which is kind of the lesser known names that, you know, maybe we're getting introduced to for the first time. And then he has what's called the Tier 1 of Idaho Prep Wrestling. That's like the uber elite, the best of the best. And he just did a Tier 1 profile on Hoyt from Lewiston. Went one-on-one with Hoyt, and it's a really remarkable story of perseverance and also admitting that, hey, I'm not perfect, and you can succumb to pressure sometimes. And so everybody needs to go read that. It's on the homepage.
Phenomenal article. Yeah, we're so lucky to have Al on our staff here to help us at Idaho Sports, and he does such a great job. And that was a great article. And you know, I've known the Haas family, you know, especially Hoyt Sr. for a long time. Like, I mean, since I went to high school with him and his Hoyt's mom, but younger Hoyt, I should say, because I have to differentiate between the two. But, you know, and my mom worked at Hoyt's school, and he was in elementary school. And so, you know, being able to see his journey as a kid, you know, my mom would message me like, have you heard about this kid from our school? He's wrestling at some national tournament, and then he's going to go to like Bulgaria or something like that. And, you know, it was pretty cool to kind of follow his journey as they've come through. And, you know, it's cool to see the overcoming of adversity. And Hoyt, you know, faced a lot of adversity with his mental health and stuff. And he talked about it in that article and how huge that is, especially for adolescent males. You know, it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's something that kind of gets swept under the rug. And the suicide attempt that took place, and you know, there's things, especially in North Idaho, we've seen it a lot. I mean, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Lakeland, they've all been affected and rocked by that same issue with mental health. And you know, it was great to put a spotlight on that and show somebody that overcomes. And like, you know, the great equalizer was, you know, his ability to just keep fighting through and push through his issues. And not only does he overcome, but he excels, and he's going to, you know, wrestle at this next level in college, and he's earned himself, you know, he'll be, in my mind, I see him as an All-American at NIC, and I'm excited to see him, you know, wrestle for the Cardinals in the future. But yeah, just that's a phenomenal article. If you folks get a chance to read it, like, that shines some light on some really tough subjects that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah, and this is something that Hoyt and his family wanted to share, to put it out there, that, hey, if you are experiencing that same feeling of stress and I have to be perfect, and the one time you don't achieve, you know, the ultimate goal, it's devastating, but it's not. It's okay. It's okay to fail, and it's okay to admit that I need help. And so
a bad day is not a bad life. And you know, Hoyt, you know, overcoming that through his faith and through his parents and his family, and you know, all of them circling the wagons and rallying around that situation. It's, you know, I mean, we're a huge fan of his, and you know, it's super cool to kind of get a front row seat to these kids that do hard things and overcome hard things and able to find some success.
A lot of times,
is so subjective too, but I mean, like, he's excelling, and he deserves all the accolades he gets too. He's just a humble kid that works really, really hard.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. It's on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Tier 1 of Idaho Prep Wrestling profile with Hoyt Haas from Lewiston. And again, just a remarkable story. So everybody should go check it out for sure. Okay, let's talk boys basketball. The big storylines: Coeur d'Alene officially wraps up the regular season Inland Empire League title. They're 7-0. Even if they fall down the stretch here, they have built up enough of a lead in the loss column to sustain that first place ranking. After that, the standings are kind of messy. Post Falls, Lewiston are both 3-4. Lake City is 2-3. They have all kind of beaten up on each other. Scaggs, you put together a little meme here to kind of analyze the situation in that race for second place in the IEL.
They're literally the depiction of a Spider-Man meme.
I mean, that is so on the nose. It's funny. Now,
this needs to be on our Instagram page.
Seriously, that's funny. That's funny. But yes, Lewiston, Lake City, Post Falls, it is the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. Stylistically, it's a little different, you know?
Sure. Yeah. They're all different stylistically, but I mean, it's who wants to win? Like, I mean, yeah.
And they all have a guy that they've identified as, if we need a bucket, you know, go get it. The question is, because you're looking at Reese Strawn from Lake City, and you're looking at from Post Falls, you know, you're looking at, I think Shields personally.
Shields, I mean, you could go McCarthy, you could go, I mean, the freshman Lindsay that we saw go off against Coeur d'Alene, like, I mean, it's kind of like pick a dude on any given night for them, but you know, it's the consistency factor is the hard part right now.
Yeah, and then I got to see the Golden Throne, or I was on the call for the Golden Throne Friday night from Lewis and Clark State College in Lewiston. What a cool atmosphere that was. You
told you that didn't lie. I told you I wasn't lying.
You did not disappoint with the way you hyped that up. The Clarkston girls won, which was no surprise. They are still undefeated at 18-0.
And they're only third in the state in Washington, and I don't know, like, two teams better than that one in girls basketball. They're pretty legit.
I mean, I was looking at their schedule, you know, preparing for the game. And I mean, no offense to the other teams in the GSL, the Greater Spokane League. There's just not anybody that's even within 20 points of Clarkston. And I'm just like, this game against Lewiston is the last test for them before the postseason starts. So, you know, go earn it. And they did. And then the Lewiston boys won in the nightcap and got the split. But to me, when I was watching that Lewiston team, it was pretty clear to me when they needed a play, when they needed a bucket, when they needed to stop defensively, it was Rylan Gomez. He was the guy that everything was running through.
Yeah, he's the straw that stirs the drink, I guess you could say, with that team. As good as Drew Hottinger's been down low at times and on the defensive end of the floor, you know, and they've gotten some good minutes out of their guard play too. But Gomez has been, you know, by and large, their bucket maker. And, you know, we look at Post Falls, we look at Lake City, we look at Lewiston, they all beat up on each other. Districts is going to be super interesting. And you look at Lewiston, I mean, they lost by single digits to Coeur d'Alene the other night too. You know, I don't know who to pick as the number 2 team to get that play-in bid. I'd have no idea. I really don't.
It's going to be really interesting. Post Falls has split with Lake City. They have split with Lewiston. They're done with those guys. And they lost twice to Coeur d'Alene. So all they have left are a couple of league games against Lakeland and Sandpoint. Those are no gimmies. I mean, you know, Lakeland's tough. Sandpoint's getting better.
Big with Lakeland, yeah.
Yep. Lake City and Lewiston play one more time. Lake City won the first matchup 69-42. They will play next Wednesday, February 7th. And I guess, provided nobody stumbles against the 4A teams, because they all have to play some combination of the 4A teams still. If nobody stumbles, I guess whoever wins that Lake City Lewiston game next Wednesday at Lake City probably takes second, right?
Yep. That would be just based on the head-to-head criteria. I don't know if it gets into the what comes first. Is it overall record, or is it the record against the 4A schools that dictates like seeding on the next criteria? But yeah, I mean, the easiest way is just win your games, but just let it all kind of the dust settle at the end. But no, it's going to be a battle. That Lewiston Lake City game's got a lot of intrigue to it, and Lake City's just been, you know, one of those teams. We knew what they were last year, and they losing almost your entire, you know, starting lineup minus one guy that sticks around, and then you got a cast of underclassmen around them, and they've just been gritty. And that's the thing of, you know, you see them take a couple of lumps here and there, especially at Coeur d'Alene, but then you see them come back and they just don't go away. I mean, they're like a bad cold. And, you know, can that pay benefits down the road with a young team that knows that they can hang with people in the postseason? You know, that might be the team to keep an eye on as we approach districts. But, you know, Lewiston's got the senior leadership, and Post Falls has that cast of just, you know, they play 10 dudes, and all 10 can make a shot. So that's where I kind of stand, where I'm like, I have no idea coming into districts what's going to shake out of this.
And, you know, I don't think it's such a given that Coeur d'Alene is number 1 and deservedly so, but the field is starting to catch up to Coeur d'Alene a little bit. I mean, they just beat Post Falls by 6 last Thursday. We were on the call for that game on IdahoSports.com. And then they just beat Lewiston by 9 last night, 70-61. So they are getting everybody's best shot. And at some point, you figure one of these teams, after being so close, you know, is going to have a chance to knock off Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, and that would be the thing in the district tournament is if Coeur d'Alene loses and you talk about who's the number 4 seed. The number 4 seed has a winning record. I mean, like, that's what you're going to look at in this is like, there's no bad teams in this conference, and every one of them, I think, is deserving of that second bid. That Coeur d'Alene realistically could take a haymaker from one of these teams and either find themselves in a play-in game or on the outside looking in. I mean, like, that's you know, maybe in 2 weeks we have to redo that meme and add a 4th Spider-Man where Coeur d'Alene's pointing at all of them because they lose in the first round of district. So I don't
know. Oh man. And you know, even just looking at traditionally, defense is what carries when you get to the postseason, right? You can have a good offense, but you got to be able to defend. The top defenses in terms of points allowed, Lewiston has the best in the league at 50.5 points per game. Coeur d'Alene at 51.5, Post Falls at 52.4, and then Lake City at 58.9. So Lake City's allowing almost 60 points per game. Now they're scoring 63, which is second highest, but for that reason, I'm a little less convinced about Lake City unless they can tighten up that defense. And I guess for me, the stock of Lewiston kind of gets raised a little bit because
defense wins championships, and Coach Malm does a great job with the defense of the Bengals.
Yeah, and just watching Post Falls with my eyes, the potential is there. They just seem to every game go through a stretch where they just bog down on offense and they just cannot get a bucket when they need it. So I don't know.
They turn the ball over a little bit. I mean, I think that's the youth that still comes out in that lineup. Is some of the turnovers that show up are just forcing things and that they didn't need to do. And, if they stayed in their set a little bit longer, like in that Coeur d'Alene game, we talked about it on air. I was like, man, if they just stay in their set, they would have won that game. I mean, they led until the last 90 seconds of that ball game. And, it is what it is, but it was a great game. I mean, we obviously missed the fireworks down in Lapway, but we had a great game in our hands there in that boys game though with Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. But yeah, it's the 5A is, I think, getting the most of the talk, but I think it's rightfully so because of the competition level between those four teams.
Yep. And we'll talk about Lapway, of course, here in just a second. Okay, let's go to 4A Inland Empire League. Moscow has taken control of this thing. I mean, the Bears are 4-2 in the Inland Empire League. They have to play, 3 of the 5As coming up, so they'll take some L's on the conference record. But what's important here is they swept the season series with Sandpoint. They swept the season series with Lakeland, and they had basically in each of those games one blowout, one tight game. They beat Moscow in double overtime, 85-82 the first time, and then they get a nice easy win in the rematch, 69-50. That was against Lakeland, and then against Sandpoint, they win 55-36. The rematch a little tighter, 71-62. But to me, Moscow now gets the number 1 seed. They're going to get that first round bye for the play-in game, the home court advantage. All of that kind of tilts in Moscow's favor now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to catch teams on the road consecutive nights at your home court. Like that's a big factor. I mean, it's not meeting in the middle now. You're like having to go either Lakeland or Sandpoint has to go on the road to Moscow. So you do get the true home court advantage there, which is going to be a nice little feather in the cap. I look at lineups too. I mean, you talk about best overall players in 4A right now. Moscow's got, I think, probably in my mind, 2 of the best guys. And that's no slight to Lakeland or Sandpoint. They both got some good dudes on their team too. But it's going to come down to guard play. I think we know that Moscow can line up. They can take advantage of the boards. They can hit it down low, but they can go off, on the 3-point shot as well. Cummings can, and so it's going to be a test. I think if they can play the more consistent, not turning the ball over with guards, just manage the game, get your guys open in your offensive sets. I really look at Moscow as the team that's going to be the heavy favorite to make it to state.
Ian Hillman at 6'6", down low. Matchup problem.
He's a problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of the big X factor for Moscow, I feel like. Okay, now we look at who's going to take second, who's going to take third. Sandpoint or Lakeland. Sandpoint is 1-5. Lakeland is 1-3. So Lakeland has a few more opportunities to nudge ahead in the win column. They each split with each other during the regular season, so they're done. It's going to come down to, can somebody steal a win against one of these 5As? Each of them still plays Post Falls. Each of them both play Lake City still. And then additionally, Lakeland has to play Lewiston and Coeur d'Alene. So Lakeland gets more bites at the apple, so to speak. But really, I'm looking at, can one of these teams get a win against Post Falls or Lake City?
I don't know if it gets done. I mean, I really don't. And, I think we're seeding in 2 and 3. They're interchangeable within the league schedule with districts and everything. I mean, it's kind of going to be set. I think Moscow is going to be the one. Lakeland, Sandpoint, doesn't really matter who's 2 and 3 because they're going to have to play each other in the first round with the loser out. So, if there's any bright spots on the horizon as far as wins for either Lakeland or Sandpoint, I mean, it's going to be catching Lake City on a cold night. I mean, they're streaky at times. I look at Lewiston. Lewiston's the more like defensive stalwart. I don't think either of those teams have any matchup for Gomez or for Hottinger down low for that matter. So really it comes down to, I think Lake City is going to be kind of those X factor games for both of those teams.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out here. The race to 2 wins in league is basically what we're looking at here. But we say that tongue in cheek. I mean, when you're forced to play your 5A opponents as conference games, I mean, it's very hard to have a winning record in the league. So, all right, let's go to 1AD1. Big story is Lapwai, of course. Case, why not? Last Thursday against Clearwater Valley was 6 points shy of the Idaho all-time scoring record. Got it on, appropriately enough, a rebound and put back off of a miss where he does so much of his damage. And so it was a great night, a celebration. IdahoSports.com was there to broadcast it. We shared the historic moment on social media. It just took off. Everybody, doesn't matter what media, if it was television, written word, Idaho Sports, online, everybody had something to say about it. I think we've exhausted all of the words that we possibly could use.
Yeah.
The two things I thought were cool about this. The first thing that I learned from a story that Jason Shatraw wrote about Case on IdahoSports.com. It's still there on the homepage. Case gets up at 5:00 in the morning every morning to go to the gym, and he puts up shots. It's incredible.
Yeah. There's a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Some of you have heard about it, but it's a phenomenal book. And that's in your habits, right? Your habits develop your character, and it develops everything comes out of your habits. And he has a habit of doing the small things and doing them extremely well. And everything else feeds off of his habits, and he just has good habits. He shows up, goes make shots. He goes, puts up the ball. It doesn't matter if it's snowing outside, it's raining, it's nice out. He feels good, feels bad, whatever. He just shows up every day. And, if he makes it a habit of something that he does is doing the little things well, it had paid big dividends for him. And, I don't even want to give the negative any noise. Like I don't know how in the world you can go on social media and hate on a kid for setting the state scoring record. And, there was a little bit of it out there, and I'm not going to give it attention because Case deserves all the credit. His teammates and his coaches and his parents, and there's an army of people behind him that led him to getting those accolades. And so that's what needs the attention and the focus. The kid works extremely hard. His teammates work extremely hard. He lifts everybody around him. And then I will say this. I did talk to, I'm good friends with Chris Bonney's girlfriend's family, and Chris Bonney was there. Obviously he put up the quote unquote shot. So I asked his girlfriend's family, I was like, was that a pass or a shot? And they're like, oh no, that was a pass 100%. He didn't airball it. He was trying to get it to Case because Case was standing next to the basket and they wanted to get it over with. So I will give Chris Bonney in my scorebook an assist and not a shot attempt.
Okay. Hey, I'm glad you cleared that up for us, because I think that's what the general perception was Bonnie put it up on the shot, and then Case grabbed it
because he wanted to pass it to Case. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Case is a great kid. I still think my favorite Wildcat is Chris Bonney, though.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you talk about the cast around Case, and we talk a lot about Case on here, but over the years of all the great players that have come through Lapwai too, that have had a hand in this, and that the coaches, and Coach Eastman's done such a great job. It goes to the select coaches in the summer and the off season, helping out with Case and developing his game in the off season, and his off season teammates. And I know he's playing with kids from Owyhee and kids from Montana, and everybody has a hand in this, to make somebody better and set a record like that. And his parents do such a phenomenal job with him, and they've raised him so well to be this humble kid that just puts his nose down and grinds every day. And, he's a good student. He's good to his classmates, his teammates, everybody else. So, hats off, because it couldn't happen to a better kid. I mean, he is a great kid and a great representative for the state of Idaho to set that record and hold that title. That's super awesome for him. And he's going to go on to do great things at Utah State.
Yeah. So he goes in at 5 a.m. every morning to put up 500 shots. And then the other cool part of it was after the game, he stayed for I don't know how long and just signed autographs for all the kids and community members that were there. And he was signing basketballs and T-shirts and
taking
posters.
selfies and like, yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
so cool, man. That's just awesome. And they've got a superstar in their town, and they definitely made it known, and that's awesome. It was
Those
awesome.
those kids will never forget that moment.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it's incredible. So anybody online that's trying to dismiss it because he plays at a small school or something, just knock it off. Seriously.
Yeah. It's like, well, do it against the 5A school. It's like he did. He went off for 49. Like, what do you want him to do? Like, so, like, I mean,
We've seen Case. I mean,
yeah,
first of all, Lapway has beaten 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A teams during this run.
Yeah.
Second of all, on the club scene, all right, Case is playing against the best of the best Division
on
I
the West,
athletes.
yeah, in the nation, not just regionally. Yeah.
So knock it off with that nonsense. Seriously, shut up.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Seriously,
Okay.
no, I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
All right, let's go 1A D2 boys hoops. We got Max Oswald here from the Bonner County Daily Bee. Fantastic job, writing about Clark Fork and Priest River and Sandpoint up there. Fun tidbit I wanted to share. On Tuesday, Clark Fork was down 48-34 with Noxon, that's in Montana, with 5:21 remaining in the fourth. They closed the game on a 21-4 run to win 55-52. They're definitely my dark horse pick in 1A D2. This is a pretty cool, because we see the final score and we don't always get that context. Yeah. I mean, this is incredible. The 21-4 run to close it out. Way to go, Wampus Cats.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a team that, I mean, he's right. The dark horse, you talk about leadership within a program. You saw them in football and what they were able to do banged up, and they're at full strength in basketball. Like they could make some noise. They realistically could. They've got guys that can play and, just athletes getting in space. But, the big thing is like the mental aspect of that, to go on a 21-4 run to close out a game. That is just bananas to think about, like, how you have to be on a heater. That's on a heater for like an entire just quarter, just chipping away at that thing.
Yeah, this is the year for the Wampus Cats. They've got 5 seniors in Chase San Roman and Cole San Roman and Ethan Howard and Seth Caven and Arrow Christopherson. Those 5 seniors have put their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing for Clark Fork. The one hiccup I have here, the one hitch I have for Clark Fork is that as the district champion, because they're going to play Mullen and or Kootenai, right? In the district championship. No offense, but those teams are a combined 2-19. But so, if Clark Fork wins districts, they still have to play a play-in game to get to state.
And way on the road too. Like
they got to go like down to McCall, which is far. And so they're going to have to take on the 3rd place team from East Idaho, Water Springs or North Gem or Mackey or somebody. So I'm nervous because we saw this in volleyball where Clark Fork had to do this. They had to go play Rockland in a state play-in match and they fell. And so that's my only concern there with Clark Fork's boys basketball team is, can they get past that state play-in game? We'll see.
And it's, not having the letdown of winning conference and then going to a play-in game and nothing's given and everything's earned. And, but I think with having 5 seniors though, I mean, you talk about having a puncher's chance. You get five guys with a lot of experience. I mean, I'll take 5 seniors in my starting lineup on the road in a play-in game. Heck yeah, I give that to me all day and twice on Sunday.
Yep. All right. Well, this is the North Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho. Be smart. Don't start. Let's start to look at the girls basketball district tournament brackets. We've got Wallace Miners Athletics, the official Facebook page of the Wallace Miners, in the chat. Go Miners! And we will talk about that huge win that the Wallace girls got last night at Lakeside in just a moment. But I figured the best way to go through this would be to to do it chronologically, right? Go with the district tournaments that have already started in girls basketball. Yep. And then kind of just work our way down from there. So if you're watching this on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, or Twitter account, I'm going to share my screen. The brackets are going to be right there. Maybe make your screen full size so it's a little easier to read the bracket. If you're listening audio only, it's all good. We have all the district tournament brackets on our homepage at IdahoSports.com, and you can follow along that way. All right. So the only tournament that has actually started thus far, Scaggs, is the 1A D1 White Pine League District 2. Only 7 teams competing this year. You might go, hey, aren't there 8 teams? Yes. Logos decided to opt for a mostly JV schedule this year. And so they decided to forego their spotted districts. So no Logos, which means Lapway is the number 1 seed. Got a nice first round bye. Otherwise, things kind of held the form. Number 2 Prairie beats number 7 Clearwater Valley 76-8. Number 3 Kamei over number 6 Potlatch 50-21. The one upset, number 5 Genesee over number 4 Troy. They had to make that really long trip to Troy. That's about as close of an opponent as you could get for Genesee. Genesee wins on the road 42-37. Coach Greg Hardy does it again.
Yeah, and that's, looking at that Bulldogs team, that's a tough match. I mean, both those teams have, good players, and that's something I think that you could come back through the losers bracket and still find your way to some success with either of those programs. And drawing a short straw though, having to come against Lapway, coming off of a big week, getting the rematch win over Kendrick. That's a tough task there. I really do like Lapway Prairie again in the final. I think that's where we're headed. I think that's where the 2 teams are going to be punching their ticket to state is going to be those 2 teams as well. So, Kamei, I can make things interesting, but I think they've got too much firepower in those 2 teams, and it's going to be a test. But I think that's going to be the fun. I mean, this tournament, I've been going and watching or seen some of the games better part of 20 years now in this White Pine League. And it is always probably in my mind the creme de la creme of district tournaments. Like, they do a phenomenal job getting this thing seated, but you just get some absolute slobber knocker games where, you'll get one of these will go to like double OT, even on the losers bracket side. One of those games will end up being like a buzzer beater and something like that. It's just usually how it ends up shaking out.
Yeah. I will say, so the semifinals will be Saturday at Lewiston High School. We'll have a loser out game as well. Let's see, Saturday, February 4th. That's not right. I'll figure out what the date is for that. Loser out game, Clearwater Valley and Potlatch, 7 versus 6. And then the semifinals Saturday, number 5 Genesee against number 1 Lapway, number 2 Prairie against number 3 Kamei. Those teams did split in the regular season, Scaggs.
I know.
Kamei won the first matchup 49-43, so by 6. Prairie won the rematch 43-36. That's a 7-point margin of victory. And this may be not even the last time they face, right? Like, they could face off right here in this second place winner advances to state game as well. Yep. That's kind of how I think it might go. Although, if Prairie does get to the championship against Lapway, they did just beat the Wildcats.
Prairie's the hottest team in the conference right now. I mean, let's be real, like they are. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
It is, to me, kind of a clear top 3 with Lapway, Prairie, Kamei. A really good team is going to be left home for the postseason, which is unfortunate. And I guess we'll just have to see how it all.
Prairie and Lapway. I mean, that's what it always comes down to, right?
If we're being honest this year with 1A D1, and we might as well just bring in the other district from 1A D1 to talk about it here following this conversation. If we're being honest, the way the bids are working this year is East Idaho gets 1, which makes sense. Grace is a well-deserving team. The Magic Valley gets 3, which makes sense. Oakley, Raft River, Murtaugh, all top 5 teams. Yep. I'm good with that.
Yep.
The White Pine gets 2. I'd like that to be 3. And then the district champion from District 1 has to play the 3rd place team from District 4. So whether that's Wallace, whether that's Lakeside, they're going to have to play a Murtaugh, an Oakley, or a Raft River. And I just don't know if they can advance beyond that. It's going to be really difficult, and they will have definitely earned their way to state if they can pull it off.
Yeah.
The one district, if we're being honest, that I don't think should get any bids this year is District 3. And they're going to get 2.
That to me is just a criminal I mean, we talk about either expansion or seeding of state tournaments, and I mean, okay, fine, give the district champ a bid, make them the 8 seed. Like that's in my mind the only logical way of doing that. But that extra bid needs to go up to an at large, like the highest ranked at large, like that. Yeah. I don't need to go much further than that, and because I don't want to start attacking things and bodies at play and everything like that. But it doesn't make sense for one of those really good teams to be left out or have to be forced to play a play-in game. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So it is unfortunate. We'll keep an eye on the White Pine League as it goes. Okay. 1A D1 Scenic Idaho Conference District 1, since we're on the D1 train here, they won't start until Monday night at North Idaho College. Number 3 seed is Genesis Prep. The number 2 seed is Lakeside. They'll play in a knockout game. The winner of that will take on the Wallace Miners in the district championship game Wednesday at 7:00 at North Idaho College. Last night, after falling to Lakeside way, way early on this season, Wallace had to go to Plummer. The game goes to overtime, Scaggs, and I'll admit, in overtime, it was a lot of free throws. There was a lot of, okay, I'm going to shoot a free throw. Now we're going to walk to the other end. I'm going to shoot a free throw. But, and Lakeside, had the lead. Wallace would get to within 1 or 2, and Lakeside would always pull ahead. But finally, with a little over a minute to go, Capri Wood, a freshman, hits a 3 to give Wallace the breathing room it needs. They win 53-50 in overtime at Lakeside, which means the two sides split for the regular season title. So who gets the 1 seed? It came down to the coin flip, baby. Wallace got the lucky draw. They get the bye. They get the.
Oh, I love the coin flip. That's like going, what is that? Friday Night Lights, where they all meet like at a truck stop and they all. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Now I did see.
This is going to be a great district tournament to watch, and I look back at that final. They've been great games between Wallace and Lakeside, and they've been going back and forth for the better part of 5 years now. They've been trading wins, and I like Wallace a lot. I think that lineup with what they're getting, the production out of their underclassmen too, and they're very well. Both teams are so well coached too. That's the part I think that gets a little missed in this one, but it's a quote unquote coin flip. I really do. You get to that district championship game, let's just play it. It goes to like triple OT, then let's just flip a coin. Like at that point, I don't know. Like they're both really good teams.
And in the Coeur d'Alene Press, Chris Dorman, the longtime coach for Lakeside, kind of summed it up succinctly. He said, "Hey, we're really two different teams. We don't have a girl over 5'10", and they've got quite a bit of size. We're a little more athletic, and it's really two different styles of basketball. It's been that way for many years, and there's no reason for this year to be any different." And yeah, you do. You look at Lakeside's got these incredible guards, right? With Kylie Wolf, who's only a sophomore, and Kimberly Pluff, who's only a sophomore. Martina Rivera, the senior, leads them in everything that they do. Tyler Lambert, just a sophomore. It's a younger team too. And then you look at Wallace, and they've got these posts inside, 5'10", Bethany Phillips, 5'11", Tia Hendrick. And Hendrick especially, is tough to handle inside, especially defensively. And so I can't wait for round 3 here in this district championship game. But again, the winner of that will then have to play in this play-in game here against Oakley, Raft River, or Murtaugh. All of those teams are top 5 teams. And so the road's going to be tough.
But you find your way there and you win it. You've earned, like you said, you earned it. And that's, I think what they're kind of looking at. And it's going to be a fun district title game. It historically always has been. And I don't see that, like he said, the coach said, that it's not going to be any different this year. Like, a lot of dribble penetration, foul, head to the line, shoot 2, go down low, get fouled because you're hacked trying to get down low in the post. It wouldn't surprise me one bit to see this end up being right back at the foul line again.
Yeah, and maybe an overtime game too. We'll have to wait and see. Again, Wallace Minor Athletics, go Miners. Hey, if you're still in the chat, can you tell me, was the coin flip held just immediately after the game last night? Or was it like a predetermined thing? Did you do it earlier in the week? I'd like to know how that coin toss went down. if someone could tell me. I love the coin toss for sure. All right. That's 1A D1.
They met at Jimmy's down the street in Coeur d'Alene over a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's go to 5A, Inland Empire League, District 1-2. This starts on Friday, Scaggs. Lake City, the 1 seed, Coeur d'Alene, the 2, Post Falls, the 3, Lewiston, the 4. Lewiston at Lake City Friday night, Post Falls at Coeur d'Alene Friday night. Winners will then play for the district championship. 1.5 bids available to state here. I got to be honest, I like Lake City and Coeur d'Alene to both advance to state from this bracket.
Yep, I'm with you there. And Coeur d'Alene not playing at full strength and still getting a lot of production. It was something that I was impressed with in that Post Falls game that we had the other night. And, that even having an off night from Brooksley Colvin, like production just wasn't there. And they were able to dominate that game in the second half. Like it was just a really nice effort by that Viking team. And Kelsey Carroll put together a great game, even though she was in foul trouble. She was untouchable down low. And, Maddie Mitchell did what she needed to do from, around the arc and distributing the ball. And so you get back at full strength. And if the Colvin sisters are on that, Coeur d'Alene team's as dangerous as anybody in the state.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that battle goes down for sure.
To say about Lake City too is that, they've had a really tough schedule. How long has it been since they've really been tested or pushed in a game? And so that's where it's going to be interesting to see, Coeur d'Alene at full strength coming in. And if they meet in the district final, there's a lot to be said about that game. I don't think it's going to hurt seeding for either team taking a loss in that game necessarily, because they're so high in the Max Preps rankings. But it'll be I think it's district championship game between Coeur d'Alene and Lake City, if that's what it ends up being. Both of those teams I really genuinely see playing in the state tournament, and I see both of those teams playing on Saturday.
Yep. Okay, let's move on to the White Pine League D2 edition. We've got a play-in game Saturday night, 6:00 in Nez Perce. It's number 5 Highland, number 4 Nez Perce. The winner of that will advance to play the top dog Kendrick. You've got Deary, the 2 seed, up against St. John Bosco, the number 3 seed. These games will all take place at Lapway High School. I like the digs there.
Lapway's got a great facility. I tell you what, like for small school in the state of Idaho, I don't know if anybody's got a nicer basketball arena than that school. That's a great facility Lapway's got there, and it's cool they're sharing with the next league down. But I look at Kendrick in this one. Kendrick, obviously my favorite. I think Kendrick's my dark horse for the state title too. But they took a loss to Lapway the other night, which I don't really,
yeah, it's all right.
Who cares? Like it's towards the end of the season. It was just on the schedule as a filler, and 2 good teams that went at it, and Lapway got the upper hand. But it doesn't tell me that Kendrick's like the sky is falling for the Tigers by any means. That team's loaded. Deary is a dark horse pick to make some noise. I really look at Deary being a team that's got a couple nice pieces in the lineup, especially down low. That they can be a scary team if they end up making it out of this thing. So we'll see what happens there, but I like Kendrick a whole lot.
Yeah, I keep voting Deary in my top 5, and when I vote in the media poll, and like nobody else is like getting behind that, and I'm just like, they're good, they're top 5 worthy. Kendrick is also top 5 worthy. Like it's you can have more than one top 5 team in a conference. Like it's not a hard concept. No,
it's not. It's who cares? I think the Mustangs are wanting to fly under the radar right now, and that's okay with them. And if that's the case, and they want to make some noise, get on them.
I'm just glad after they had to play each other in the first round at state. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that was a bummer.
Deary got him at state. Deary got Kendrick, and then so if the rankings hold with Max Preps, as of now, Kendrick would be your number 1 seed, which I'm good with.
Yep.
No disagreements there. Deary would actually be the 3 seed, which again, I'm good with. They'd be on opposite sides of the bracket. Like I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I realistically look at this Deary team, like they're getting slept on hardcore. Like
Yeah,
they are
good.
an absolute sleeper. It's like one of those picks in the NCAA tournament when you're trying to go through your brackets and you look at like somebody that's in a 6-12 matchup and it's that 6 seed that ends up in the Elite Eight. That's Deary right here. Like I look at them and they are just getting like snoozed on hardcore.
Oh, but they're 12-6. Yeah, okay. They've lost to Prairie twice, Genesee, Troy, Kendrick. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. what do you want? I mean, come on.
And one of the times they lost to Kendrick was by 1 point. Like,
yeah.
Come on, what are we doing here? Anyways,
Yeah.
we'll see how this.
But next year we won't have to argue about it. I mean, because Kendrick will be gone, but whatever. But
and won't that be interesting? Yeah,
and then you get Tennessee coming down. So yeah,
yeah, that's going to be really interesting. Okay, 4A District 1 and 2 Inland Empire League play-in game is Monday at Lakeland. Number 3 Moscow at number 2 Lakeland. Winner gets number 1 Sandpoint in the best of 3 series here. That best of 3 series will start on Wednesday. Sandpoint they have been pushed lately. This, like we talked about on the boys' side with Coeur d'Alene, how the field has narrowed. Sandpoint has gotten pulled a couple out of the fire recently. I mean, when you look at a 47-40 win over Moscow, they had to win that late. A 49-41 win over Lakeland, another game they had to win late. Of course, they beat Lakeland the first time, only 53-50. All of these games, their largest margin of victory was over Moscow by 9 points. So it's been very tight.
But wasn't it kind of that way last year too? That's just the way Sandpoint plays, is that they just kind of naturally play close games.
So last year, Lakeland by 19, Lakeland by 1. Yes, you're right. 44-43. And then at districts, they won the first game in the best of 3 by just 3 points. And then they blew out Lakeland 51-29 in the clincher. I'm not sure what happened in that clincher, but
I look at Coach Love. I'm still giving him benefit of the doubt. I'm telling you right now. And then you look at, not only did they beat, close games, but look at who they played this week. I mean, they played Bonners Ferry and Timberlake. They took care of Timberlake. It wasn't close. They beat Bonners Ferry. Sandpoint's fine. I look at them and I'm like, I'm not worried. Coach Love, he's trying his darndest, I think, to just get some pieces in his lineup, some experience. And, you're not going to get the blowout wins because I think he's taking care of his team as they approach the postseason. I don't want to prognosticate and think that, I'm going to say, that's exactly what he's doing. Some of these teams are genuinely good and pushing him. But they're pushing the Sandpoint girls team. But, Coach Love I don't want to say guru. He's a guru. I mean, the guy knows what he's doing. He's one of the best in the game. And, I'm going to err on the side of, he knows what's going on. And I still think Sandpoint's one of my favorites to play for a state championship. Shelley's really good. Pocatello's really good. Sandpoint's really good. I think those top 3 are kind of on the upper echelon of the program. So state, you get there, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be able to play a close, sloppy game in the first round and win because they're used to it, because that's how they play. That's where I'm at. Soapbox off.
Okay. Hey, you've convinced me. I'm back on with Sandpoint. You've convinced me. 3A Intermountain League best of 3 series. Timberlake gets to host. They'll host number 2 Bonners Ferry. Game 1 Monday night, 7:00. Game 2 Wednesday. Game 3, if necessary, on Thursday. Kind of like we talked about. Very close matchup. The first time these two played it in Bonners Ferry, Coach Miller made some adjustments for Timberlake in the rematch and won a little more easily.
Yeah, I said it was going to be close, and I was completely wrong, and I'll fall on my sword on that one. Timberlake. I mean, Coach Miller does such a good job with that group, and putting the pieces in place to get them playing well. And he's got some really nice players in that lineup. And I think I like the Tigers coming out of this one. I think this is criminally another one of those leagues that needs 2 bids or a half bid. Put Bonners Ferry in a play-in against any of the other districts. I think the Badgers make it to the girls' state tournament too. But it's just one of those situations.
Yeah, it's tough. There is a a glom of like 10 to 11 3A teams this year that are all kind of really equally talented. And yeah, Bonners Ferry and Timberlake are both in that grouping for sure. So yeah, we'll see what happens there in their best of 3 series. We're hitting the home stretch here. We've got the 2A Central Idaho League. This starts on Monday. We still got to figure out, where everybody's getting seated. I mean, I guess we could probably fill this in a little bit on the bracket line here. Everybody plays 8 league games. Grangeville is 7-0, so nobody can catch them because the next closest is Kellogg at 6-2. So I feel pretty good about putting Grangeville 1, right? Then they're going to play the winner of the play-in game, number 5 and number 4. That's on Monday. Right now, it's looking like Orofino and St. Mary's, but, Priest River's 2-4. Orofino is 2-6. They're done. St. Mary's is 1-6. They have 1 game left. If Priest River goes on a slide here to end it, they could find themselves in that play-in game. They play St. Mary's tonight, Scaggs, in Priest River. It's a big matchup.
That's a big matchup. And, I look at it too, though, is I don't want to say anything's ever set in stone, but Grangeville obviously is going to win the tournament in my mind. Like that. I don't know if anybody's got the firepower to match the Bulldogs right now, but Kellogg's a sneaky team. I really like I say sneaky as far as future tense. They've got some nice pieces. They can score. They can score in bunches too. They've got one of the leading scorers in the state of Idaho in 2A basketball, and that's a group that can play really tough ball. And I look at tonight, the matchup with St. Mary's and Priest River. Priest River is one of those teams that's just, I don't want to say Jekyll and Hyde, but I really do just look at Grangeville and Kellogg being the overwhelming favorites in this conference to make it. But Orofino's one of those teams that can maybe push and make a dangerous game for someone.
Yeah, and I just don't think anyone's going to catch Kellogg. Because Kellogg's done. They're 6-2, so they are finished. So we can put Kellogg at 3, 4, and 5 still to be determined. Priest River finishes the year with St. Mary's and then Grangeville. Assuming they take the L against Grangeville, they got to win this game against St. Mary's to avoid kind of a 3-way tie there at the bottom with Orofino. That would be wild, huh? St. Mary's, Orofino, and Priest River could all finish 2-6. Yeah, that'd be.
Which, then it goes to, I don't know what their criteria are outside of head-to-head. So assuming that they all kind of split against each other this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. Bottom line, I'm with you. I like Grangeville to advance. 9 of the 10 players on the varsity are juniors or sophomores. They have 1 senior this year in Maddie Thacker, and otherwise all juniors and sophomores. I like Kellogg to take second to get to that play-in game. I'll be honest, I don't know if Kellogg wins that play-in game. It's probably going to be against New Plymouth. I'm doing the daily bracketology posts now at IdahoSports.com. I'm kind of projecting New Plymouth to beat Kellogg in that play-in game. I'd love to be wrong, Wildcat Nation, and if I am, I'll come back and wear it. I'm just a little worried about how battle-tested this Kellogg team is. Whereas New Plymouth, they have had to play Melba and Coal Valley and all these 5A and 4A teams. They are battle-tested this year.
Yeah, the fighting Paul Kingsburys and the Pilgrims will be they'll make it interesting if that's the game that we see that has state tournament markings all over it. If it's a play-in game, that's something that you would definitely see in maybe a 4 or 5 matchup. Most years. So, but yeah, like I said, Kellogg can score though. That's the thing I'll give them is if they're hot and they can shoot, they've got some size in the post too. But they've got great guard play. Kellogg is they're a dangerous team if they're on. So that's where I stand.
Yep. Okay. Last one. We're getting to the finish line here. The very last tournament to start in the entire state because it's 1 game. 1AD2 North Star League. It is Clark Fork, the 1 seed, Mullen, the 2 seed. It'll be Wednesday, February 7th, 5:30 p.m. at North Idaho College. This will be the game before Lakeside and Wallace. So a nice double header there at NIC next Wednesday. I just don't see a way. Mullen, the fact that they were able to put together a season is incredible. They've got 7 players. They had to petition to allow 3 8th graders to play. Otherwise, they would have had 4 girls. They wouldn't have had enough for a team. They still have some games on their regular season schedule, but they're 2-10, just a young team, low numbers. Clark Fork, very experienced, very veteran. Clark Fork 6-8. I like Clark Fork to win this. I'm not sure if Clark Fork can go win that play-in game because I don't know. There's 3 really good teams from the East, and it's probably going to be Rockland or Grace Lutheran that they're going to have to play. I just don't know. I've got a bad feeling for the Wampus Cats there, but I do like them to win the district.
Yeah, I like them to win district, but that play-in game I just see as being that's going to be a bear trap to fall into. Like if it's Rockland, that is a absolute that's a tough situation to be in to find your way into the state tournament. But like you do what you can do, and that, like you said about Mullen, though, hats off to them and what they've been able to just play, just showing up. Like sometimes that's half the battle is just being there, and they've been able to do it. And those hats off to those 8th graders that stepped into that lineup.
Now, I will say the player for Clark Fork that's going to be important if it does get to that play-in game with Rockland specifically is going to be Amari Prince Hay inside. She is a 5'11" center. Rockland's tallest player is 5'9". And so if Amari Prince Hay can shut it down inside defensively and score with her back to the basket for Clark Fork and take advantage of the height, Clark Fork's got a shot. But to me, that's the X factor. If it's a matchup with Rockland, if it's a matchup with Grace Lutheran, then I actually give Clark Fork a good fighting chance of winning that and advancing. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, if it's Grace Lutheran, I think the chances of winning that game are significantly higher. But if it's Rockland, that's a tough matchup because Rockland offensively, that's going to be you're going to have to keep pace with that team running the floor. That's for sure.
Yeah, Rockland's got guards. That is for sure. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, those are all of the district tournament brackets. Of course, we update those every night on IdahoSports.com. And then mid-morning each day, the following morning, I've got my bracketology update. First official bids to state have been clinched. Speaking of 1AD2, Mackey and Ledor both clinched spots to state from back east. So congratulations there. More and more bids will be clinched in the coming days, Scaggs, as we are hitting the stretch run.
Joe Lenardi's got nothing on you.
You know what I learned? Joe Lenardi, he's the big bracketologist for ESPN, but he has also for 19 years been the color guy for the St. Joe's Hawks radio broadcast, St. Joseph's men's basketball. Yeah.
Huh. I had no idea.
How cool is that? Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So, I mean, hey, there's hope for you to be the pivotal guy nationally, to be the national bracketologist for something.
Yeah.
If not for us, we're glad you're on our side.
Yeah, I think I've hit my ceiling here. I don't know. Nobody nationally is calling up asking for brackets, Baney. That's for sure. Hey, look at this. Before we get out of here, it is confirmed from the horse's mouth itself. Case why not? 100% a pass.
Told you. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that is double confirmed now. We can.
Yeah, that was. I would say nobody leaves a bunny like a little jump shot that short, man. Like no.
The bunny from Bonnie turned out to be a pass instead. So, okay, I'm glad we could clear that up. We don't want to be spreading fake news around here. So, okay, that's going to do it for this edition of the North Idaho Prepcast presented by Novape Idaho. We went super long today, Scaggs.
Yeah,
we do this.
Just check Twitter. I'll do the North Idaho 9 on Twitter. Don't worry about it. We went long.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Sorry.
It's all good. Well, I'll put it up on Twitter if anybody really actually cares. So
every once in a while we do this. We get off the rails a little bit. We have a show that goes a little longer.
Well, we went to the brackets and everything else. And we talked about wrestling and so we're good.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Basketball. No, I'm just kidding.
I do. I get in trouble on the Match Chat Prepcast.
Yeah, you do.
About basketball.
It's like a massive faux pas.
Yeah, they don't like the
pumpkin pusher. Yeah.
Pumpkin pusher. I like that. That's good. Okay. Thank you for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.